All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the Screenplay Archaeology podcast. I'm your host, Kiramidhead.
And this is me, ShadowPred.
Back again after the King Kong episode and back to his usual superhero niche, but this time it's not bitching about Batman and Superman. We are instead covering The Punisher, and we're going to be looking at two early drafts from 2000, 2001. Basically early drafts of the Thomas Jane movie, but significantly different. They kind of got transformed into that, which we'll talk about. And to start off with, I guess we'll talk about The Punisher in general. I mean, I don't know how much you've read.
Yeah, I mean, the only things I've really read about The Punisher is, just the Punisher Max series, which I sort of barely remember since I read all of those issues pretty much all at once. And, my first introduction to the character was the Spider-Man animated series back in the 90s.
I forgot they did that. Holy crap.
So I always just imagine him, no matter, every time that he's brought up, I always just imagine him wearing that fucking bandana and then sometimes putting on that fucking that jetpack shit to chase after Spider-Man and then trap him in this fucking goop so that he can't move or some shit.
But I mean, I for the longest time I knew who he was because I had a bunch of these like I don't think they put these out anymore, but used to put these massive picture books of all the superheroes whenever they would have a movie coming out. And I had one for Spider-Man, which had the Punisher in it. I had one for the Spider-Man, one for X-Men, one for Batman, and one for the Hulk. And the Spider-Man one had a Punisher page. And that's kind of how I learned who the Punisher was. And I remember he showed up at the end of the video game on the PS1 when they're all playing Go Fish together.
Oh, right.
He accuses Daredevil of looking at his cards.
Yeah. I remember now it's all coming back to me. I remember that happening. And then also I think during 2000 or 2001, I bought these 10 these comic bundles from Toys R Us, and oh no, never mind. None of those had the Punisher ones. I did buy two Punisher issues from my best friend back in high school, and it's mostly the two-parter where him and Daredevil and Ghost Rider team up to fight I don't know, I forget who the hell they fight, but all I remember is basically Punisher chasing after some bad guys at this church, and I guess Daredevil's also been chasing them, but I don't think they're in the same scene yet. And then Ghost Rider just comes crashing through the fucking the church fucking glass and shit, just spouting his nonsense that he always does.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. But yes, I kind of knew who he was, and then I saw the Thomas Jane movie when it hit DVD, and I like that movie. I still like it now.
Yeah, I actually watched it recently too.
Yeah, you watched it just to check up because we were originally planning on doing a draft of that movie because supposedly there was stuff that didn't make it in, but there's really not that much of a difference.
Yeah.
When one of the differences is Frank getting pulled into court and they revoke his license to hold a concealed weapon, it's it's not worth really talking about.
Yeah.
But this is after he's the Punisher, by the way. But so that came out, and I'm okay, I like this movie, so I like the character, and eventually I finally got around to, I actually owned a Punisher comic, single issue I picked up from an antique store, and I just remember it was the Punisher in Miami or something, and I never actually read it. But I had that, and eventually I did finally get around to reading Punisher comics, because I got into reading Preacher, and I loved Preacher, and I knew Ennis went on to write some Punisher stuff, so I bought some Max stuff. I bought Welcome Back, Frank, and now I have the entire run of Punisher Max, including the Ennis stuff, the Jason Aaron stuff, and the stuff in between, which I haven't read yet. But that's all good, and I got a bunch of unofficial downloads of all the old ongoings because trying to collect all of it is impossible in trade, doing it the legit way. And I'm trying to read through all of that and do videos of it as I go through. And it's pretty good stuff. I mean, obviously, I think the Max stuff is the best stuff because that's taking it seriously and really delving into his character and doing a lot of interesting stuff in it. The Slavers is the best Punisher story I've read so far.
Yeah, for me, the most memorable would be when he's writing that fucking ballistic missile from Afghanistan or some shit.
Oh yeah, that's how he escapes in the Mother Russia arc.
So fucking crazy.
Yeah,
But I just love that. I just love the ridiculousness of some of these situations.
Yeah, he escapes with the little girl, and what's weird is that Ennis took that ridiculous stuff and built a serious story around it, because if you read, like, the Welcome Back Frank and the Marvel Knights stuff, it's totally just a black comedy.
Yeah.
Like, he kills a guy by dropping a fat dude on him and smothering him to death.
Jesus Christ.
And there's, like, like, Welcome Back Frank is where the rooftop scene from Daredevil Season 2 came from, where Daredevil's chained up. Only there, Daredevil doesn't break out because it's Garth Ennis doesn't like superheroes, so he's making fun of superheroes. Whereas in the show, because it's Daredevil's own show, he can't look like a chump. No, we gotta save that for Defenders. But no, and like apparently there's like I haven't read the later Marvel Knights stuff yet, but there's supposed to be a bit where Frank uses Spider-Man as a human shield.
Wow.
And he blows off Wolverine's nuts with a shotgun and then rolls him over with a steamroller.
Oh yeah, I've only seen an image of the panel where he like shoots him in the balls.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the steamroller part right after.
And I think in that arc, like, the bad guys are like a bunch of evil dwarfs.
Jesus Christ, the fuck! I need to read this.
I need to read all that shit now, because it's like, it sounds insane, and like the Russian comes back and his head has been transplanted onto a female body.
Yeah, I've always heard about that shit.
And I've seen like a panel where he like shoves Frank's face into his boobs.
Jesus.
What the fuck was Ennis fucking smoking? Because, like, I mean, Preacher's crazy, but I don't think it's that. I mean, it's got Satan getting shot dead in the flashback, but
jeez.
I mean, reading that shit, it's like, I want to see the Punisher versus the Saint of Killers. Can that please happen?
Eventually.
Yeah, hopefully if AMC gets their shit together and, like... No, I mean, Preacher's been doing good on TV, I think, so far, but...
Shit, I need to catch up on season 2. I think I only saw the first episode, man.
Oh, man.
Or the second.
Season 2 gets a little bogged down in, like, typical drama shit, but it is really, when it's great, it's great.
All right.
Fucking Hairstar, man, is fucking hilarious, and they kill off yet another celebrity in the show. I won't tell you who it is because it's so hilarious when it happens. But no, to get back to Punisher, I guess we should get into, I'm talking about, the actual movies that came out. You got the Dolph Lundgren movie from 1989, which came out the same year as Batman. And it was supposed to be a theatrical release everywhere, but because New World Pictures ran out of the money, it only got released, it got released everywhere theatrically except here where it got a video release. And I think it's a pretty solid 80s act.
I'll be watching it soon. I don't know why I haven't. I've had it in my possession for like a year or two, I think.
Yeah, I actually, because it doesn't have an American Blu-ray. I bought the Australian Blu-ray, which is not region locked.
Ah, good.
So it's actually pretty good, but it's a solid little movie. I mean, Dolph Lundgren does a pretty good job considering it was only like his second or third leading role.
Shit, all right,
and
cool.
You have like his ex-partner on the police force, who's Lou Gossett Jr., who's amazing in the movie.
Oh yeah, I saw a clip of it where he like meets Franken like in his jail cell or some shit, and he's just like yelling at him and all this shit, and I'm like, holy fuck, man.
He's like, what do you call 200 bodies in 5 years? And there's some funny stuff. Like, it's basically Punisher versus the Yakuza, and they capture him and they're like torturing him on like a rack, and they're like, who sent?
Oh man.
I have the comic book adaptation of the movie, and I'm really curious to see if they left that line in, or if it was scripted or ad-libbed or whatever. I'll be curious to see that. And of course, the big issue people tend to have with the movie is that he doesn't have the skull on his costume, which, I mean, it doesn't really hurt the movie that much, I don't think. Like, I mean, he's still doing Punisher-like stuff in it.
Yeah.
And he has little skulls on the ends of his knives. And apparently there was a scene in the script where he just spray paints a bulletproof vest with a skull at the end when he goes in to fight all the Yakuza people. But for some reason they cut that out. And it's really weird because I looked at that script and it's like he just kind of randomly does it. And I'm like, why?
But what wasn't it because the director or somebody thought that it was like really stupid or something that he had like a skull on his shirt?
Yeah, it was something like where the director cut out because he thought it wouldn't look good or something. I don't know. Which I'll take no skull over the skull in one of the movies we're going to talk about in a minute. But you know which one I mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, that was not a big hit because it only went direct to video in New World, which it's actually really funny that New World ended up making a Punisher movie because when they bought out Marvel in the 80s, Marvel had already sold off Captain America and Spider-Man to canon. And they were like, what the fuck? You mean we can't make a Spider-Man movie? Shit. But no, so that didn't, make a whole lot of money. It kind of went away, which I mean, I wouldn't have minded seeing Lundgren come back as the Punisher. That would have been kind of fun.
Yeah.
But so we didn't get another Punisher movie until 2004, the Thomas Jane movie, which I think is pretty solid, especially if you watch the extended cut.
Yeah, it still is. Like when I watched it recently, I was like, shit, still pretty good.
I mean, it's light on the action, but when the action's there, it's pretty good. I mean, his fight with the Russian is pretty kick-ass. I mean,
yeah, it's great.
Best film role Kevin Nash has ever had. Could you imagine if they did a sequel to that and Kevin Nash came back as the Russian with tits?
Man, dude, that'd be fucking crazy. That'd be too ridiculous. I don't think that would ever get made just for that reason alone. If they were dead set on making that movie, and that would be cut completely. They'd be like, get this shit out of this script right now.
But no, yeah, he's in that, and they made a good change to the character and making him not talk because his dialogue in the comic isn't very good. Like his whole shtick is that he's a fan of superheroes, and so they're like, we want you to kill off this costume guy. And he's like, it's not Mighty Thor, is it? I am fan of Mighty. And he keeps calling the Punisher Big Boy.
Jeez.
Which he does that shit in the video game, and it is so annoying. Because yeah, there's a Punisher video game which is a sequel to the movie, but the Russian is somehow in it.
The true sequel, like that game. Jesus Christ!
That game.
I had a lot of fun with that.
I haven't finished it because I got stuck on the second Russian fight because he's a bitch in that fight. Because you gotta snipe these exploding barrels, and there's these constantly respawning Russian guys chasing you around like fuck.
Right.
But I mean, I basically what I need to do is I need to like replay all the other levels, like get up all my points, and then buy kill recovery so I can kill all those guys and recover health, and then stand a fighting chance against the Russian. But that's gonna take forever. But
isn't there like a scene in that game where you're like in a coffin? And then you have to like press the button, and then you pop out and shoot everybody.
Yes, you do.
Oh god, that's incredible.
Yeah, that game is a lot of fun. But no, Thomas Jane actually came back to voice the Punisher in that, which is pretty cool. But no, Thomas Jane was a good Punisher, I think.
Yeah, like the fact that he actually gives a shit, like even so far as coming back in that one bootleg universe short film, Dirty Laundry.
Which just makes me wonder if all those shorts are supposed to be in the same universe, like Punisher and Power Rangers together. But no, I think the movie's actually pretty good. It's interesting seeing Rebecca Romijn in a role that's not Mystique.
Yeah, especially
and I like how they have that little relationship that's not really a love story.
Yeah.
And they're actually really smart in how they play that out. And I like the neighbors. Once again, it's Ben Foster before he was Angel.
Man, Ben Foster, dude. I fucking love that guy.
Yeah, he's good. And you also have John Panette, who was in the series finale of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And I don't mind John Travolta as the bad guy. I think it's kind of interesting that he's not a straightforward mobster. He's more of like a banker.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when I was watching the movie again, like I was just thinking, holy shit, this isn't a role where I'm like, where I'm not thinking of Travolta like in this like mockery like that I keep imagining him as, it's like I just make fun of him in my mind. But in this one, it's like I like you said, I had no problem with it either. And I don't know, like the movie just works. Like all of it just works. Like it's nice. It all fits in like well with like all these players, all these like the cast. It's a solid movie that even like 13 years later or whatever, there's to me it doesn't feel dated either.
No, it does. Like I mean, it is obviously 2004 in that they have music in it that's 2004 music.
Yeah. And
for a movie where apparently like a lot they got fucked over on budget at the last minute because the film jumped studios, it looks pretty good.
It feels pretty complete even without, whatever extra without the extra scenes that they could have added in.
And when they do have action, it works. And there's some cool stuff of a compound bow and the machine gun that he has.
Yeah.
And I don't mind the little car chase in the movie. And so, okay, the movie came out and didn't do much in theaters because it went up against fucking Kill Bill 2, which it had no chance against.
Oh, God.
And so that came out, people kind of forgot about, the big superhero movie of '04 was Spider-Man 2. And
which the Punisher supposedly shows up at in the end.
Really?
That was like the thing that everybody would be talking about, because at the end, like, I think it's when Mary Jane is like running in her wedding dress, you see this dude that looks like Thomas Jane turn around, and then people would always say that was him. And I think at one point Thomas Jane said, "Yeah, that's the Punisher," but I think it's just it's just some guy. But yeah, just like if you look at that scene like on YouTube or something, you'll be like, oh, okay, you'll understand why people for years were like saying, oh, that's him.
Like, I mean, at least, the Punisher was not held in the same disdain as, say, the other superhero movie of that year, which was Blade Trinity.
Oh God, dude, those movies actually were like at the same time. Good God.
Yeah, like I think Punisher
it doesn't even feel like that to me. Holy shit.
Punisher was April, Spider-Man was like June or July, and then Blade Trinity was August, I think. But that was so. But I mean, and then okay, so they were going, but it sold really well on DVD, which is the point. So they were going to make a sequel. And then there was all this back and forth, like Thomas Jane wanted Walter Hill to direct it, but the studio said no. And like John Dahl, the guy who did Red Rock West and some other stuff, was going to direct it. And then he left. And then basically Thomas Jane left because he got sick of, Lionsgate's bullshit. Because Lionsgate only really cared about getting a super violent hardcore movie out there because, they were the Saw studio at this point. And so he left. He didn't like the direction it was going in. And so they brought in Lexi Alexander to direct and Ray Stevenson to star, and they added basically like 30 seconds worth of flashback and like a few lines of dialogue were changed. And they went, okay, we have a reboot now, and we got Punisher Warzone.
It's such a shame that the movie's like pretty bad, because I remember when they said, oh, Ray Stevenson, he's the Punisher, and then I took one look at him, I'm like, shit. You cannot get anyone better to look like the fucking Punisher.
Yeah, like
if you wanted to.
He looks just like the Tim Bradstreet cover art.
Yeah, right?
Like Jesus Christ, he's actually like he's a really good pick. It's just a shame he doesn't get a whole lot to do in the movie aside from sit around, talk to Micro, and mope. And and like Dominic West is a really good actor, completely wasted on this version of Jigsaw.
Oh my God, tell me about it, dude! I could not believe what they did to him.
Who sits around, cries about his face, fucking mopes around with his brother, who's fucking Eugene Toombs from the X-Files. What a waste of him too. And it's one of those films. The first time I saw it, I liked it, but the more Punisher comics I read and the more times I watch the movie, the more that movie falls apart for me. Yeah. Because it's a film where I'm watching it and I'm like, this has this serious fucking story about Frank Castle killing an undercover Fed and feeling bad about it. Cut to Jigsaw and it's a comedy.
Yeah, right? Like that was what put me off, like, from that movie. Like, just the fact that I had no idea what the fuck, what it was supposed to be. It's like those comedy bits just are so out of place for me, man.
Yeah. And you have like, okay, Ray Stevenson, good pick for the Punisher. Wayne Knight, who, in spite of me thinking is Seinfeld in Jurassic Park every time he comes on screen, is the picture-perfect version of Microchip.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I was thinking, ooh, it would be so cool to put a Microchip in there. That's who I fucking imagined the entire time. So when it turned out, oh, he's gonna be playing Microchip, I'm like, holy shit, okay. But then, oh man, this movie.
Yeah, and that's too bad. And he doesn't do anything. Like, he doesn't do any of his hacker stuff in it. So he's just like a gun dealer. So why is it called Micro? Right. And I'm not, and like, he's not bad in the movie, but all he really does is go, oh, Frank's like, I'm thinking about quitting. He's like, Frank, you can't quit. That's it. That's really all he does. And he has like a senile mother who's just there so they can do like a gag where Frank finds her corpse later on.
Jesus Christ!
You got Julie Benz. You got Julie Benz, who is a good actress, doing this horrendous fucking New York accent.
Jesus, I don't even remember Julie Benz in this movie.
Which is funny because one of her Rambo castmates is going to be in fucking the new Punisher series. But like, she's in there. She's kind of, and it's this really interesting idea, and you can tell the plot that they picked was supposed to be a sequel, because this whole thing about about him accidentally killing an undercover federal agent and feeling that bad about it. For one thing, it makes more sense for a new Punisher to make that mistake. Second, it makes way more sense for him to feel this bad about it when he's a version of Frank Castle who was an undercover Fed.
Yep.
Like, they didn't even try to hide this. And you've got like some decent, you have some fairly good action scenes throughout the movie, but there's only like 3 of them, really. Like, he's going to like go in and like, okay, you have the action at the beginning, which is pretty cool. You have the bit where he fights fucking Oliver Queen's stepfather, which is all right. the dude who always gets cubed in Paul Anderson movies.
Yeah.
And you have like the scene where admittedly it's hilarious where he blows the guy up. He blows the parkour guy up mid flip.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I like that's cringy, but it's just so stupid. Like when that happened, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And then okay, you have the scene where he fights through the building at the end, which is pretty cool, but a lot of the movie is just him moping and Jigsaw whining and not funny like there's some decent dramatic stuff like where that former gangbanger that he that's like working for him now who dies and he has to watch him die. Like that's a good scene mixed in with a bunch of stupid bullshit.
Christ.
And what really pisses me off as someone who reads the comics is like every fucking supporting character in that movie is just like an in-name only version of a character from Max.
Lord have mercy.
Like, one of the stupid parkour guys is named McGinty, who's nothing like McGinty from the comics, who's this scary fucking dude. You have the fucking, like, the dude from Arrow is named Budiansky, who's nothing like Budiansky from the comics. You have the fucking slavers show up in the movie playing just generic Russian gangsters, and it's sad when the joke that's supposed to make Jigsaw look stupid, where he says, "This ain't Transylvania, we don't speak vampire," and the guy goes, "It's Russian." When Jigsaw is actually closer to the mark than they are. Because in the comics, I think they're like Albanian.
Jesus.
And then you have fucking Frank Castle like working alongside like Tiberio Bulat. I'm like, oh, fuck you, movie. That's a thing that should not be.
The whole movie should not be.
And like you have like fucking like the fucking like Mr. The fucking Ike, Mike, and Mustard guy from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang playing Detective Soap. Who's honestly not bad in the movie. Like, he's one of the better parts of it. Like, Detective Soap is one of those characters who's like, whatever. But he's not bad in the movie. But yeah, it's just a mess of a movie, and like, it didn't help Lionsgate dumped it out at Christmas.
I think so.
Yeah, it was like a December movie. That's why I didn't see it. But no, and also, like, the reason why the movie has such a weird tone is because it was supposed to be serious, but then Lexi Alexander was like, oh, after the Virginia Tech shooting, I can't do gun violence seriously.
Then why are you on The Punisher?
Yeah. Yeah, the movie's a mess. It could have been a good movie if we just had a better script and, like, someone who actually wanted to make a Punisher movie making it, but it is what it is. And so, basically, for a very, very long time, like 6-7 years, there was nothing about the Punisher. Like, Lionsgate just dropped the rights like you wouldn't believe after Warzone tanked. And so the rights went back to Marvel, and everyone was speculating, like, when is Marvel going to bring back the Punisher? When? And like, and you had like the Russo brothers going on about how like, oh, there's like 2 scenes with a guy driving a Penske truck in Winter Soldier running people over. And it's like, they're totally like, it might not be the Punisher, but it totally is the Punisher. I forgot about that until like yesterday. I'm like, oh yeah, they were saying that.
Like, why would they even say that? It's like,
but then like 2015, right? Daredevil hits, and it's like, this is way darker and grittier than anybody expected. It's like, it's Arrow done right. And so immediately, you and me, we're like, yeah, they gotta do Punisher on Netflix. And sure enough, they announced Daredevil season 2 was gonna be Daredevil versus the Punisher.
I wasn't believing that shit. Even though they said it, I'm like, no way.
And then it's true, they cast John Bernthal, and I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have expected that because the guy grows out his beard. He looks exactly like Wolverine, but because I mean, he does in like that season 3 mid-season thing in Walking Dead, where like Rick just randomly hallucinates Shane walking down the street. He's got like shaggy hair and a beard. I'm like, why is Wolverine in Woodbury? But I mean, he gets cast, and the funny thing about him getting cast is that Frank Darabont's first choice for Rick Grimes was Thomas Jane. So we could have had two Punishers together.
Well, just wait for Punisher 2099.
Yeah, hopefully.
Go. There's your two Punishers.
I have not read any 2099, which is weird.
Oh man.
Because all those Marvel picture books I had hyped up the 2099 shit like you wouldn't believe.
I know, dude. That shit was everywhere back in the day. Like even for me, someone that barely read comic books, like in the 90s or even the 2000s or like even today, you know, like 2099 was something that I knew about somehow. I think it was like when I was like around 10 or 13. Yeah, that's when I like found out about that sort of shit. And then like I would read it, like all of a sudden I'd be reading about stuff that's going on. And I guess it's back or something with Spidey 2099.
I mean, 2099, like I knew about Spider-Man 2099, like he has like fucking fangs, and there's X-Men 2099, and there's Hulk 2099, he's got massive fucking fingernails.
That's fucking everything.
And apparently there's Doom 2099, who might be the actual Doom, but we don't know, and I've heard that series is really good. I'm gonna have to look that series up.
Yeah, I heard that shit too, but like one day I hope that I can read that just to see.
But yeah, you got all that 2099 shit. But so yeah, like the trailer for Daredevil, we've got two trailers for Daredevil season 2. One was hand focused, one was Punisher focused, and the Punisher one was so hype.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, Burnfall is gonna be awesome, and then the season comes out, and all the Punisher stuff is awesome.
Yeah,
the hand stuff wasn't.
That was my problem with season 2. Like all of a sudden, the final half is just. It's just whatever. Punisher shit, good shit right there.
Well, it's just the second half was just the hand doing random shit, which, granted, they did finally explain that fucking hole in Defenders.
Yeah.
But like, at the same time, it's like, it was still random as hell. Like, they're making zombies in the hospital, and Rosario's all, what the fuck, and I'm the same. But no, the Punisher stuff was really good. I thought Bernthal, like, I thought he's completely sold the emotion of the character, and I thought they did some interesting stuff with the wrong time, wrong place thing with his family getting killed, and it was really that the cops fucked up a sting, and that the DA was more concerned with covering her own ass. I thought that was interesting, and that gave Frank a reason to doubt the system. And after that, but so like, yeah, the Punisher stuff, really cool. He fights the Kurgan, which is awesome.
Right.
Clancy Brown, who's now 2 characters in the MCU.
Woo!
He's fucking that guy and Searcher.
Base Clancy, man.
Yeah, Clancy's great. He's just totally doing his Lex Luthor voice in Ragnarok.
Right.
But no, he's really, you know, but I mean, that whole storyline I thought was pretty good, even if it was a little weird that, oh yeah, like the one guy from Frank's past who's played by a recognizable character actor who always plays bad guys, he was behind it. And I thought they did a good job of making his sort of friendship with Karen Page work pretty well. And like both actors have been have been upfront saying, yeah, they're not doing a romance in Punisher.
The ruse. They're tricking you.
Yeah, I like the fact that Bernthal's just like, fuck that castle with the K shit. We're not Olicity bitches. But no, I mean, and it left you in a place where it's like, I totally want to see more Punisher. And then for ages after that came out, like Netflix was like, well, we don't know. We might wait until after Defenders. And then they confirmed they were going to do it. And then for a long time, it's like, well, we don't know if we're going to do it yet. We're going to wait until after Daredevil and Jessica Jones get their next seasons. It's like, it might not be till 2020. And everyone's like, fuck. But then suddenly, like a few months later, it's like, oh, they're filming The Punisher in New York, and it's
surprise,
like, oh,
bitches.
shit. And then it's like rumors 2017 for the longest time. It's like, I don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming out.
Insane.
And we get that John Wick inspired teaser after Defenders,
right.
and we still don't know. And for the longest time, it's like, it was rumored in November, but nobody knew. So I'm like, God damn, if they confirm it for November, fuck the Justice League script. Fuck the Thor script. We're doing Punisher. And here we are doing Punisher. They finally announced it for November 17th. It's like, yes.
Hell yeah, dude. Just seven days to go.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait.
I'm ready.
I'm not even heading. Well, I'm working all weekend next week, but I mean, I'm working in the mornings. I'll be watching Punisher in the afternoons. Justice League can wait. Which is sad that I'm saying that, but still. But no, the trailers for the new season have been pretty interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting that they're going a bit of a different direction. It's not Castle versus crime. It's him going up against this military conspiracy with the CIA and shit.
Yeah, I hope that. I don't know. I don't know about that shit.
Well, I mean, it is based somewhat on Max because he did go up against like some high-placed military guys. So I'm okay with them doing that. It does seem a little soon. I like the fact that they're making Rollins, who was a character from the comics, into like the big bad. And
Yeah.
he's played by that missionary pussy from Rambo 4. Who's like, oh no, Rambo, we can't have you around. And now he's like a fucking hard-ass CIA dude. I like when I first saw the casting of the guy who's playing Microchip, I'm like, oh no, they CW'd this shit. But seeing him in the trailer, it's like, okay, he looks like one of the Geico cavemen, but he's disheveled enough that it works.
Mofo just gotta eat more.
Yeah, and they seem to be introducing like a whole bunch of new characters and whatnot. And Ben Barnes, Prince Caspian, is playing Billy Russo, who will probably become Jigsaw in episode 13.
Oh shit! All right, let's do it.
Yay, we can have a Jigsaw is now like part of like a PMC, probably working for Liquid Ocelot. Like, I mean, I'm okay with changing his character up because Jigsaw's a character in the comics I've never cottoned on to. Like,
Yeah, they can do about anything.
Like the handful of comic book appearances I've read of him is basically him whining like a bitch and being like, "Oh no, Frank, you fucked up my face," and I'm like, "I don't care, go away." Like, it really is a shame that the one time I care about Jigsaw in the comics when he's brainwashed and they tried to turn him into like a Punisher clone.
Jeez.
And, like, he sees the real Punisher coming and, like, it breaks the brainwash. He's like, Frank! Like, that was kind of cool.
Amazing.
Or in these scripts where he's basically a joke character.
Yeah, that's so weird.
And, like, he apparently is one of those characters who kind of just keeps coming back because the only reason he exists is because, like, Punisher just doesn't kill him for whatever reason, so he keeps coming back. But I mean, I'm interested to see how Ben Barnes does. And it's being, show run by Steve Lightfoot, who was one of the many writers of Hannibal, so it should be solid.
That's where my hopes are at.
So yeah, and he knows how to work within the 13 episode format, so no bullshit like oh, villain switcheroo in the last 3 episodes like Luke Cage. We don't need to pad it out with Carrie Ann Moss's divorce bullshit. No, no constantly switching plot lines like Iron Fist did.
Like 13 episodes is just too long. Like for me, I always feel like at episode 10 is when the season really ends. But for some reason, it's like, oh, here's an extra 3 episodes, 2 of which are just gonna be to like fill out more nonsense. Like to me, every and this happens with all of the shows, like
except the first season of Daredevil.
Yeah, like it happened. Like I always feel like there are 1 or 2 episodes, like beforehand that just feel like, okay, the season could have ended here, but then it just feels like, no, there's more. And I always feel like exhausted by then, but it's like, who cares? But for some reason it keeps happening. Like every time that I'm about to finish like one of those seasons, it's like it feels like an episode or 2 are like not needed for me.
Yeah, but I mean, and like Iron Fist just kept changing its plot every 3 episodes, so
yeah.
But enough. We could bitch about if I ever feel like pulling that Iron Fist movie script out of the file and doing an episode on. We can bitch about Iron Fist there, but
right.
But I think Punisher is looking really solid. That first trailer was amazing. The way they perfectly timed the Metallica song to like the scenes and the gunfire and like the cocking and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the most hyped trailer. The second trailer was really good too, but that first one, just because of the way the music was used, was. But so to move on to the scripts, what these 2 drafts are is that, and they both follow the same overall plot. So the same plot synopsis we'll give at the beginning will work out. And they're written by Michael France, who's a guy whose name was on some action movies in the 90s, and he wrote early drafts of 3 different superhero films. And the basic plot is that in this version, Frank Castle, he's an undercover federal agent like we see in the Thomas Jane movie. Only this time it's in Miami instead of Tampa because the Florida shift occurs with these drafts. And he's going undercover with this crime family called the Vingellos. And he's really after this group called run by this guy called Costa, who's this gun runner who's bringing these military grade weapons into down onto the streets And in the process of him, going undercover with this crime family, he kind of starts losing himself in his identity. And because of things in his past, he has this sort of predilection for violence, and he really hates crime, but he's in danger of becoming almost as bad as all of these criminals. And so he makes a break for it and tries to run, and in the process, his family gets killed by some of Costa's assassins. And so he comes back and he goes on the rampage trying to take down the Costa family, basically. Pretty good summary. And so these drafts, Michael France, the first big thing he wrote like the spec draft of Cliffhanger that got rewritten and made into that movie. Cliffhanger's pretty solid.
Yeah.
He did a lot of work on GoldenEye, and he didn't get and he got like a story credit, but apparently he talked to both of like the other writers who did get the screenplay credit, and they both felt that he got kind of screwed on that. And he did uncredited rewrites on The World Is Not Enough, so probably the better parts of that movie. Which somehow the lead writers on that movie have written all of the James Bond movies since.
Jeez.
Like, even Die Another Day couldn't stop them, Christ. And his only other credits were on 3 superhero movies. The first one he worked on was Fantastic Four, which he wrote in 1996 when Chris Columbus was going to direct. And I've read it. It is absolutely insane. All kinds of crazy... Like, he uses the Fantastic Four's powers to the full ability for that script. Like, all sorts of crazy shit happening. You get a Doom who is over-the-top dramatic Doom.
As he should be.
And just awesome. You got Doombot. You got a fucking massive giant hurricane as the end game. You got, like, the United Nations building gets shredded. You got, like, this bomb in midair they all have to stop. Like, you got the fucking scene where they got to break out of the lab containment. It is insane.
Jesus. Sounds good.
And, like, they couldn't have gotten it made back in 1996 because of the budget. And, like, you had stuff like Chris Columbus wanted, like, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan to play Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Girl.
Holy shit, dude. I'm fucking in.
Quaid would have been awesome. I don't know about Meg Ryan.
Shit. Let's make this happen.
But that didn't happen, and France also... He came... Like, it's this weird, complicated history of Michael France coming and going on Hulk, where he would write... he was supposed to write it, and then he got knocked off. And he almost came back and got knocked off again. Then he actually wrote drafts, and he talked about how he kept getting conflicting notes. Like, sometimes it was supposed to be serious, sometimes it was supposed to be funny, and he didn't know what they wanted.
Jeez.
And the Hulk draft of his that's out there wasn't too bad. Like, I mean, it does have a ridiculous scene in the middle where Banner starts hulking out because they put mayonnaise on his burger.
Jesus Christ.
Like, I mean, aside from that, it's a pretty solid thing. Like leader. It actually has the leader in it.
Fuck, finally.
And his end game is pretty interesting. I mean, there's some good Hulk versus military action.
Good.
Basically, like, the leader, like, tears open a fucking black hole.
Oh, shit. Hulk, stop it. Stop the black hole.
It's like he powers this machine with a black hole that's supposed to, like, it's like his idea is that the world is overpopulated and the Earth can't sustain, so he's going to wipe out, like, a certain percentage or something.
What a maniac.
And, like, the
Hulk if it goes wrong, the whole planet's fucked.
And the Hulk has to punch the machine open to unleash the black hole and stop the leader.
I was hoping the Hulk would have to punch the black hole.
But no, it would have been pretty good, but, like, he almost got screwed out of credit on that one, too, because, like Ang Lee's writer came in and, like, tried to say, like, we were the only ones to try and bring psychological depth to Bruce Banner, which is bullshit if you read his script.
Those bastards.
Klingon bastards. And that movie was that movie.
Yep.
It's interesting and not without merit, but it doesn't work. And, like, the Fantastic Four movie that eventually got made has a few of the things from his draft in it, and that film is fine for when it came out. The sequel is way worse.
Man, what a huge fucking disappointment.
But I mean, it was interesting reading his stuff, and The Punisher was the third one that he got brought onto. And Artisan, basically what happened is that Artisan, who made the Blair Witch Project, they were flush with cash, and they purchased the rights to, like, 15 different Marvel characters because Marvel was in the shit at the time and was selling their shit off for chump change.
Yep.
And so And so they brought like 15 different characters, and I'm not sure which other ones they brought, because the only one I'm specifically sure of was the Punisher. And so I guess because he worked real well with the Marvel guys on Hulk, they said, hey, let's come in and like, will you write the Punisher? He said, sure. And France actually went back and said, hey, give me all the Punisher comics you have. And he read all of them. And he said he liked the character, and basically the concept of both Marvel, Artisan, and France sort of agreed upon was that they had to update the origin story to kind of make for a more modern action movie. And he said the reason why he changes the Punisher's origin in this is because he felt like just a guy with his family getting killed wouldn't necessarily become this unstoppable vigilante. It'd be more likely to make him drink himself to death.
Jeez.
And so he brought this psychological depth with the undercover stuff and his past with his father, which we'll talk about, as a means as a means of bringing a certain amount of psychological realism to it, which is interesting because he kind of touches on not necessarily the same ideas, but similar like base concepts as what Garth Ennis would do with the Max stuff later on, like tying it back to like Frank's history and like his predilection for violence.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover two drafts, one of which is significantly different from the first, but they follow the same sort of overall arc. Now we're going to talk about the first one more in depth, and I guess we should just get into that now.
Yeah, sure.
And okay, first problem I have with this script is the opening scene.
Yeah, it's like a bait and switch. Like it's like already, starting off with him and his family at the freaking park. And then you got the fucking the picnic basket and all this shit.
And then you have this like with a gun.
Guy coming up slowly, and I'm like, oh, it's happening. But then it turns out it's just like his partner or whatever the hell.
His handler Harwood. Jeffrey Harwood, who comes in and he says, hey, your freaking contact within the Vingello family, like he gave you a call, you have to go now.
Yeah, and then of course, like there's already like a history there. Like he's been doing this for a while, where he's he can't be with his family for too long or some shit because there's always something going on, and then like that's why he like yells at Harwood, like like I'll leave, like, but he's like, no, you gotta do it now, and he's like he wants to like say goodbye to his kids because he's like this is important too. Yeah,
and okay, I have to point out something which. The second draft fixes this, but I find this really silly, is that his name, his legal name in this is Frank Castiglione.
Yeah.
And his undercover name is Frank Castle. Solid fucking disguise there, dude. But like, okay, so Harwood takes them away and they're driving off into the seedier side of Miami, which is where this is set. And the reason why it was shifted from New York to Florida is partly for budgetary reasons, because it's cheaper to shoot there, and partly because France is a Florida native, and like his father was like this architect who built a bunch of hotels that were potentially scheduled for demolition, and so he wrote a bunch of scenes involving them into the script so that like it could give them like a certain amount of awareness.
Jeez.
But I don't mind the whole Florida setting. I think it makes for a nice change of pace, dumbass. But especially after you had all these fucking superhero movies set in New York. Like, I mean, you have the fucking like X-Men movies set around New York, like Spider-Man's in New York, Daredevil's in New York.
Yep.
It was a nice change of pace at the time to change the setting to Florida, and I like the Miami thing. It's very Scarface, Vice City.
Yeah.
I like that kind of, sun drenched but still gritty kind of vibe. It has, I guess, like Max Payne 3.
Mm-hmm.
Only that's Rio. But Frank, as they're driving in the car to like the other side of town, and like Frank's like changing out of his clothes and stuff. And he gets rid of his polo shirt. He's like, hey, I'm not going to the Promise Keeper's breakfast. And it turns out, it's on, Los Dios de los Muertos.
Yeah.
The Day of the Dead, and there's like a big parade. And so he needs to change his shirt, and so he walks to like the shirt stand and buys a skull shirt. Which all I have to say is that if he's we sold Day of the Dead shit at my store where I'm working. If he's buying a fucking skull shirt, it's not going to be a blank white skull. It's going to be blinged out as shit.
Right.
Like blingy, multicolored, like pastel Punisher.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of a cool idea. Get the skull, get like a little foreshadowing for the skull in there, and the idea of like all the dead come back on this day, and if all of Costa's dead came back, like they'd be running it 24/7 for a month.
Yep.
Like, it's a nice little thematic idea. And so he meets up with his contact, who is Rico Vingello, whom they mix up his name with his uncle's name a couple times here.
Yeah.
And he's someone that he's never going to be a proper made man because he's a fucking coke addict and no one trusts him, and they call him Rudolph because his nose is always red.
Jeez.
And so they're making a deal with some Costa gun dealers who are all wearing skull masks, and they go into like their little storefront, and like they're getting patted down and stuff. And Frank notices that like the bills are marked, and Rico's like, "Oh, I pulled this stuff out of my uncle's safe. Like, it's been sitting around for months."
Fool.
It's like, fool, why do you think it's been sitting around? And they get out there alive, and he's like, he goes over to this stand. He was like, here, light these candles for us so we live out the day. And then while they're chatting on the road, like guy gets like a black light and goes like, these bills are fucking marked. And like a big fucking shootout occurs during the parades. Like all kinds of shit happens.
Yeah.
Like Frank shooting the place up. Like there's grenades. Like all kinds of shit happens.
Pure madness. Like one of my favorite bits is like the part where I forget what happens. I think he jumps and he lands somewhere where there's like these two skulls. I forget if they're like giant sugar candy skulls or like they're just plastic skulls. But he like smashes his fist inside of them
and pulls a gun out.
Yeah, he pulls out like. Yeah, right. I actually have it right here. Oh no, I don't. But he basically pulls out, I think, 2 submachine guns or something from right under from the skulls.
Yeah,
and he just starts blasting everybody.
This is their distribution. So he like drives a fucking motorcycle up through the fucking parade float, and it gets set on fire. And he goes back to save his contact and gets them out of there. And right as the cops show up, like he shoots the tire out and they drive away. And like he blows up the guy here who later goes on to become Jigsaw in this script.
Yeah.
So it's like he's the Punisher before he's the Punisher. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, like afterwards, I think what happens is that I think Frank and Rico, don't they meet up with the
Vingellos?
Yeah, they meet up with them right there, which doesn't happen in the second draft, I think.
No, in the second draft, he just meets with Harwood. He goes, I got a call. But first off, I should mention that the police officers in the car were Detective Jean Neslar and her partner, Luis.
All right.
Neslar's important as this goes along, so I have to mention her.
Yeah.
And Luis is a decent enough comic relief. And okay, he gets in good with Don Chiro or Kiro or whatever his name is, and they flip-flop Rico and Kiro a few times, which is probably why Rico's name changes in the second draft.
Ah, right.
Because he becomes Renzo, which I think it means rat.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
We'll have to check. I'm not up to date with my Romance languages. My Spanish, I've never taken Italian, and my Spanish is like nearly a decade old at this point.
Yeah.
But no, so he meets with them. They meet Tony Santianello, who's like one of the guys there, who's like an asshole. He's like the one guy who suspects Frank. And like, there's this story about how like he used to work for this guy called Motown Ed, who like they would like assemble like cars on the line to like pay off their debt, and like they had like a warranty of like 4 miles or 400 yards, whichever came first.
Yeah.
And so like Frank gets in good with the team. And he goes to talk to Harwood, and Harwood's like, hey, man, you got to use this to get close to the Vingello family, like that old school East Coast mob. And if you can maybe gain some intelligence on Costa. And they're talking about how, like, Costa's, like, selling these military-grade machine guns, like, nothing anyone has ever seen. And, like, one of them was used to shoot up a school, but, like, the suspect, like, got away. And there's like all this shit that Costa's caused, and Frank really wants to go after Bruno Costa, whom is also like this like public celebrity and like opens up a ton of restaurants.
Yep.
And it's sad because the second draft has this line where the second draft doesn't really establish the restaurant thing, but has this line where it's like, you killed a Punisher, you're going to be in the crab cakes. Like that would have fit so well in this first draft. But Frank's like, oh, okay, I have to like, okay, I'll go undercover with the Vingellos because Harwood, you have a point. And so he does, and he starts doing a bunch of jobs with them, and like the line starts blurring between, you know, who he is and like between Frank Castle and like his criminal identity with them, to the point where he's actually like killing fucking people who are like attacking like his boss.
Yep.
And you can tell like it's starting to wear thin on his family and stuff, and like Harwood's not happy with him. And you can see that Punisher has like this real Frank has like this real black and white sense of morality even before he's the Punisher, because he's enjoying killing these Costa thugs.
Yeah, definitely.
And the Vangelos actually give him this shirt made out of bulletproof material with the skull insignia on it, which I'm not sure how I feel about the Punisher persona coming from the mob.
Yeah.
Like, that's a little weird. Like, I can see them giving him, like, a bulletproof, outfit, and then him later putting the skull on it. But it's a little weird that, like, he gets, like, this whole Punisher persona from the mob. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, and plus, like, just the Punisher basically being bulletproof, like, the entire time.
Actually, one thing I find interesting is that they're kind of doing, like, the superhero costume Punisher doing this.
Right?
Like, because in the old comics, he has like this head-to-toe fucking black suit with like white gloves and white boots, and they kind of almost get there by giving him like this bulletproof outfit. It's kind of interesting. Like, I feel like the Punisher persona coming from the Vangelos works, but it's just weird from my understanding of the character. And so like he works a bunch of heists for the Vangelos, and he's like snitching on them to Harwood. And, like, he's just losing himself in this life. Like, he's enjoying it a little too much.
Yeah, like Hardwood's just, like, typing on his computer or something, saying, oh, psych eval or some shit like that, where he's like, oh, Frank, something's up. He's
that
like,
was a little...
The line is being blurred.
That was a little on the nose. But, I mean, it's a solid, but, I mean, the idea is really good, I think. And it all comes to a head when he's got to leave Maria on their anniversary, and they're arguing about him bringing his work home, and how she thinks he's pretending when he's at home, and that's not him.
Yeah, I like that line where it's like, I don't know if you're the one that's pretending here or some shit like that. But and like, just to talk about the family sort of a little bit, I think this draft does a better job of like establishing them a bit more, because I sort of feel like in the second draft that they're kind of just there, even though like some of this stuff still happens. It just feels like that development just like kind of goes away. So when they die, like, it doesn't matter. Like, for me, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
in the second draft.
In the second draft, it really hurries through this first part.
Yeah.
And, like, okay, so, like, he leaves her, and then, like, there's a bit later on where she wakes up and she finds a gift from him, so he didn't forget, but...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then, like, the letter, I didn't forget. Like, as he was yelling.
Punisher never forgets. Punisher never forgets.
Jeez.
But, okay, so he leaves, and he goes to meet the Vangelo guys at a fish rendering plant, which is the setup for a ridiculous action scene later. And they talk about, they figured out how Costa is laundering his money, how he has his men deliver it in sedans to this group of bankers, and that the bankers take it. So the idea is that they're gonna stake out this fucking parking garage, wait for the the Costa guys to leave, and then rob the bankers blind. And one of the thugs goes, oh yeah, Frank, there was a survivor of your parade attack, and he's back, and he's now called Jigsaw because he's all scarred. And you're like,
yeah,
it's like, we don't know his name, we don't even know what color he was.
Yeah, it's just so odd. Like it just feels like, oh, they're just dropping this character in here.
And I find it interesting that Jigsaw was created by Frank Castle and not the Punisher.
All right. That's
actually kind of strange. But also a very interesting thing. But okay, so basically that they go out there to rob the bankers. Jigsaw is driving one of the sedans. And then, so basically they're staking the place out, and it all goes tits up when Neslar, who's in the cafe across the street with her daughter, she notices Frank, and she gets the drop on him and tries to arrest him, but then this leads to Jigsaw driving the sedan and spotting Frank and going like, oh, he doesn't say you fucked up my face, but you might as well, and tries to run him over.
Yeah, like he just sees him and then all hell breaks loose.
And yet another crazy fucking shootout happens where some Vangelos get shot and Frank even kills one to save Neslar. And she notices it. She's like, wait, what the hell is going on? And then And like fucking all this crazy shit happens, and eventually like Jigsaw drives straight into a fucking like concrete piling trying to hit Frank, and then Frank like sets the van on fire and blows it up, so Jigsaw gets blown up again. Still not dead, by the way.
I think they also say that like, oh, he just gets more messed up. It's like
he just gets increasingly more messed up as this thing goes along, to the point where near the end, like he doesn't even have a face; it's just stitches shaped like a face.
Jesus,
it's like a doll. And as they're escaping, Tony, the Vingello, who doesn't trust Frank, he shoots this roller skating teenager who's in his way, where it's like you can't drive around her.
Oh, right. And then he just like purposely just kills her, and then Frank is like,
freaking out.
Yeah, he's like crying. I think it says that he's crying because he's like he couldn't stop it from happening. And then after that, it's like, oh, I think everything just settles down, right?
Yeah,
and then that's when the dude's like telling him, like, he's like, you're freaking out. You're like going nuts about me killing like this girl being dead rather than our own guys. And then that's just when shit starts.
Yeah, he's like, we lost 3 of our own men in there, and you're more worried about some dumb cunt who got in my way, I think is what he says.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so, okay, they go back to the fish rendering plant, and then Don Vingello comes out. Also, during all the chaos, Neslar finds a file full of important Costa documents in one of the cars, and she stashes it.
Yeah.
And so Vingello like takes Frank off to the side, and you think he's found out that Frank's an undercover agent, but no, he finds out that Frank is in fact Frank Castiglione, and that his father was Mario Castiglione, an old New York hitman who was known as Il Punisco, the Punisher, and who was never convicted. And we get a couple of flashbacks, and we get the idea that Frank feels like a lot of guilt and shame over who his father was, and that this whole getting into the feds was trying to prove that he wasn't like his father.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about, I actually kind of like this idea, because one of the things Garth Ennis does with the Max comics is that he does go into this psychological thing with the Punisher, where it wasn't so much about his family just getting killed was just the last straw. Like, he was already down this road of being in love with fighting an endless war.
Yep.
And it all goes, and like he goes into all this Vietnam stuff, and so like you can kind of see that like France was kind of getting close to those ideas with the whole undercover thing is kind of like the Vietnam experience almost. And it even there's a one shot called The Tiger where like this whole vigilante idea with Frank goes back to his childhood. Now, it's not anything to do with his father being a hitman or anything, but it's a similar idea. It's interesting how 2 different guys who probably weren't even aware of each other came up with similar enough concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it works. Like, I think it's doing something. It's not the comics exactly, but it's hitting on a lot of those interesting ideas.
Yeah.
And so, like, Vingello gives Frank one last task to prove his loyalty, and he set it up so that Bruno Costa will be ascending a glass exterior elevator. And so he says he has Frank set up in this hotel suite with Tony, saying, okay, you shoot this guy and you're in with us for good. And Frank is sitting there with his gun, looking at Costa in the elevator, going like, I can kill this guy and end him now. But he's just thinking of his father, going, I can't do this. I can't be like him. He doesn't take the shot. And so he's fighting Tony, and one wild shot goes loose and alerts Costa as to what happened. And there's a guy in the elevator with him here who is this guy called Stewart, whom you later find out is working with this guy who works in the district attorney's office, and that this was all part of a ruse to try and get him into this place to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so Frank fights Tony, gets away, and he's like freaking out in his house, like having this flashback to his father basically taking him along to a hit and seeing what happened.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy, and he has to he's basically beating up his kitchen cabinet trying to just get these visions to go away. And then he's like, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, and he goes to take his family.
Crazy, man. But really well done.
And like Harwood shows up, and Harwood's and Frank's like, no, Harwood, I don't want to get out. There was this other guy who went undercover with the Costas, and he got found out, and he got killed. So I'm going to handle this myself. No leaks. And so he goes out on his boat, like he changes the serial number and the name, and he goes out onto the ocean.
And isn't it because there's like a bunch of other boats there,
Yeah,
and
like,
he's
it's a
using
big
that like as
crowd.
a cover, like just to make sure.
Yeah, he's using that as a cover, and he said he talks to Maria and says he brings his armor along with him, like just to remind himself of what he could have been. And they're like, we're going to like home is wherever we're together and where we're happy. And then they have this one last quiet, happy moment, and then 3 boats show up with Costa assassins on, as we find out later.
Yeah.
And they shoot up the boat. The family gets fucking shredded. Frank only just manages to survive because he has his armor with him, and then the boat gets blown up, and he gets and like the boat like tips up in such a way that he doesn't get the brunt of the explosion.
Yeah, and he just like, just survives by a plank of wood or some shit.
Yeah, and he floats away, and right before this happens, like both Costa and Vangello get informed of the fact that that Frank was an agent, and Costa gets arrested and stuff, and then after Frank's family gets taken out, like Costa is getting bailed out of jail, and he meets this guy from the Attorney General's office, and he figures out that this assassination attempt is going wrong. He lets him go with a warning, and he talks about he has all this blackmail material, which becomes important later. And so Frank makes it to one of his safe houses, and he sees him getting his weapons together, and he goes to the fish rendering plant, and all fucking hell breaks loose again.
Yeah.
He's like swinging on a chain, shooting people. Like he chucks this guy into a flash freeze unit, and he's got a gun.
Oh yeah, and he gets frozen.
But like he's still shooting the gun after he gets frozen. Like he's fucking Dylan from Predator. And like his arm breaks off, and it's still shooting. Frank picks up the arm and holds it as it's shooting, takes out all these guys, and like whacks a dude in the face with the fucking frozen arm.
Madness.
And then like everyone's dead except for Tony, and he puts Tony into the fucking like slicer, and he goes like, he asks him like, who did it, and he goes like, we didn't do it, man, we only just found out now, it had to have been Costa's guys because we found out from them. And then he just lets the fucking slicer slice him in the fucking face.
Jeez.
Like, God, that was cool. And he tells this janitor earlier, like, hey, go, leave, come back in 20 minutes because it's going to need a fucking cleaning then.
Yeah. That poor dude.
Like, oh man, that fucking scene was great. And also he tells him that someone on the government end must have turned mole.
Yeah, and then it turns out, it's
and
like the only guy that he knows, freaking Hardwood.
And so Frank goes to his fucking safe house, checks fucking like the law enforcement database. He's tracking these deposits of over $10,000, and he's seeing a lot of them in Hardwood's name. And he goes to Hardwood's house to confront him, and he's already dead. And he pieces together that Costa has set this all up to frame them.
Yeah.
And make it look like they were corrupt and went fucking crazy. And then the cops show up because they've been called as part of the setup, and Neslar is there with the gun on Frank. He uses the shirt to shrug off the bullets. He fucking shoots her in the bulletproof vest again. He jumps out the window, runs along the rooftops, gets down to the ground, and gets away in a speedboat. And then, that night, Costa attacks Vangello's house, takes out all his men, kills Vangello, sees a report on the fish rendering plant, pins it on the Punisher, and he leaves a giant white skull as a signature, which kind of made it into the movie.
All right.
Which is one of the most ridiculous parts in that film. It's like, we are ripping off the Crow if it kills us.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil did the same shit, we're going to do it too. And like you got both and you have Neslar investigating both massacres. There's this ridiculous part where like the last frozen corpse gets dropped and breaks into pieces, and they're like, we're all out of evidence bags. And she's investigating the Costa, like the Vangello house massacre, and she pieces it together pretty quickly that the Punisher didn't do that because he didn't sign it. And she's like, yeah, she figures out pretty quickly that Costa was behind it.
Yeah, pretty much like, Punisher wouldn't do this to his family or some shit.
Frank is like at his safe house again. He's putting like a list of suspects together, trying to remember who the men on the boat were. Like he remembers a dude with burn scars on his hands. He remembers a hyena-like laugh. Yeah. He remembers a dude with a vest of throwing knives and a tattoo on his chest. I was just picturing Danny Trejo.
Right.
And he remembers Boots, and he remembers Jigsaw. He was the one with the rocket launcher. And he finds the picture of the guy with the burn scars in his files. Now, why he doesn't go after him at first, I don't know. But like he sets up the board, and he also sets up a column with corrupt Justice Department guys, but he doesn't know any of them, so he determines he needs help. Enter Microchip, who was mentioned earlier as being part
Ooh.
of the tech side of the Vingello op.
Yeah, and he's
so
just playing some music, just singing along like Julio.
Yeah, he's playing fucking Hair of the Dog by Nazareth, which is a great song. And like he's fucking like lips, he's like fucking karaokeing along to, he's got his headphones on, and then like 3 of Costa's guys are like breaking into his apartment while he's there trying to kill him. He doesn't know what's going on until like he turns around and like Castle has like one like halfway out the window, one's like hung up on a coat rack with a knife in his chest.
Right.
And like I don't even remember what the other one was.
Just dead.
Yeah, that other one was just dead. And Micro's like, I'll turn it down. I'll turn it off. And he recruits Microchip to his cause. And now, here comes a scene where I think Neslar does something kind of stupid. Where she goes to Costa's mansion. She was like, I know, he's like, I know something's up. Like, she's like trying to intimidate him.
Yeah.
And figure out here that like her husband was a Justice Department employee who was one of Costa's first assassinations. And then she like lets slip like the things that she knows from the documents. Like she mentioned that she knows about like his cemetery front. And I'm like, maybe don't let the bad guy know that you know stuff. Yeah, and then so like, yeah, that's a dumb move. And then we cut back to Micro's like upgrading Frank's computer, and he's like, oh, okay, like the Vingello op was it got screwed up by like a call from Costa to someone so high that it immediately got shut down. It's like, you're never gonna find this guy. And so Frank determines to go out and look for whoever was involved. He kidnaps Costa's lawyer Baskin, and we get the fake blowtorch interrogation scene, which was taken from an issue of Punisher War Journal, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the first one.
Yeah,
first issue of that. I actually own that shit.
I haven't gotten around to reading that yet. I will. But France liked that, put it in the script, and eventually made it into the movie where he's talking about how, like, you won't feel anything other than cold, but you will smell sizzling meat. So he jabs the guy with a popsicle stick and then burns the meat. And what I like about this version is that you don't see what he's doing until after he's done.
Yeah.
Which I kind of wish the movie had done that. I don't know how you would have filmed it.
Not at all.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of a cool idea. He rats out the combination to the safe, and so Frank sticks the popsicle in his mouth and goes, and he's like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he's like blowtorching hot dogs, and he like gives the hot dogs some microchip.
Right.
Yeah, and so he breaks open the safe, gets these papers on Costa's businesses and some encrypted CDs, and he goes, hey, Micro, unencrypt. And there's like a whole list of like Costa owned like clubs and stuff. And over the police scanner, he hears that Neslar has arrested someone, and he hears the laugh of one of those boat assassins, and his name is Scoggins. And he turns out he's getting let go after a call from the Fed saying that he's fucking up an undercover op. So basically Costa called in another favor. And so Frank does this fucking badass thing where he wears a police officer's uniform, sneaks into the fucking police station, collects the guy's personal effects, walks into the jail cell and just snaps his neck.
Jesus. Goes
to fucking Scoggins' apartment. Listens. Also, by the way, Scoggins ordered a pizza while he was in the police station with his one phone call. And so Frank's at his apartment eating the pizza. And he's looking through the place, and he gets an answering machine call from someone called Terry, who was one of the boat assassins, the one with the burn scars on his hand, which leads him to a club on Olmington Boulevard, I think, or something like that. And he gets the location from Micro's list of businesses, and he goes in undercover with a shirt over the skull. And it's this club it's like a secret club inside like a burned out factory.
Yeah.
Where it's on multiple levels, with strippers in cages being moved from level to level. And he's like going up the levels. He's like asking one of the strippers for help, and he looks up, and there's Terry with the burn scars. But then Rico's there, spots him, even though this guy saved his life, I'm gonna kill this guy anyways. Tries to kill him, and like the shot is like burns off his shirt, so everyone knows he's the Punisher, and everyone's trying to kill him. All fucking hell breaks loose.
Yeah, once again, like Punisher just blasting fools, swinging on cages and shit. It's like holy Christ.
He's swinging on stripper cages. He shoots Terry in the head. He spots the fucking Danny Trejo guy running around, so he jumps to another cage to get a better shot. But the stripper in the cage is the killer with the lizard skin boots. And she's like trying to attack him, and like the gun falls in with her, and so he gets another gun out, like shoots the fucking cage off the chain, and like the cage goes in, crushes the fucking Danny Trejo guy. Now the stripper, whose name is Sienna, she's still alive, but Frank has to fucking swing on the chain, crash through the window, and fucking get out of that place because it's way too fucking crazy. Once again, crazy shit.
It's madness, man. Too much like explosions everywhere.
Yeah, like it's a few, maybe too many, and I argue that like it only really becomes apparent with the last action scene, which is kind of tacked on. And so Neslar picks up Frank in an alley, and she's now kind of on his side now because she knows that like he wasn't trying to kill her and stuff. And they're talking, and he figures out that her husband was one of Costa's first victims, and she was in one of the pictures in Harwood's office. And they're going to help him, and they're going to go get the stashed files. But then she gets a call from Costa, who has had her daughter kidnapped because she was a dumbass.
Yep.
She goes, "Oh, Frank, we've made a deal to exchange Katie for the documents. We're going to meet at this abandoned hotel." And Frank goes there, hides out on an upper floor, and is like aiming between holes in the floors.
Yeah, and then,
turns out Katie isn't there. And turns out, Punisher was part of the deal, so the floor gets shot out from under him, and he gets caught. Jigsaw knocks him out. Now, here comes the fucking most bone-chilling villain speech ever.
Yeah.
Okay, he's in the embalming room at Costa's like cemetery front. And Costa basically talks about all this stuff, and we get this backstory about how like he was a gun runner who was like secretly selling stuff to this brutal dictator in the fucking Eastern Europe for the CIA, but then the guy got killed, and then the CIA tried to scrub it. So Costa went, "Fuck it, I'm selling these guns to criminals in America," and he's got enough blackmail material to mean that he'll never ever be touched.
Yeah.
So he's got the entire government in his pocket, and I'm like, wow, this guy is a fucking master villain just for that.
Shit. Not to mention all this craziness.
And he's using the fucking like cemeteries, like he's stashing the guns in the graves and digging them up when he needs them, and using the coffins to transport them across state line. And then he gives this villain speech talking about his daughter. I'm almost tempted to read this whole thing out.
Go ahead, man. Cause
do you want to do Punisher's couple of bits?
Oh, sure, I guess. Like, let's see. Where does it start off again?
Bottom of page 98.
Oh, damn, man, that long. Jeez.
And it's a long speech, too.
All right, let me go through. Let's see, I'm almost there. 94, 95. All right. Oh, okay.
No hard feelings, Frank.
Oh, no hard feelings? Okay. Jeez, whoops. Oh, God, I can't find it. I'm a fool.
Are you in the wrong draft?
Maybe. Oh, no. Let's see, because...
Well, I mean 98 in the PDF file. Like, I mean, on the actual page, it's 97.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
No hard feelings, Frank. Against the constable, I mean. We told her to turn you over to us, and she'd get her little girl back as a father. I mean, recent ex-father. You understand how easy that trade is.
Did you?
Let the girl go? Fuck no. Listen, Frank, there's something you need to understand. This cemetery, by the way, cemetery is misspelled throughout this whole thing. This cemetery is called Silent City, but the dead are not silent. The dead speak to us, louder and clearer than the living ever could. Your family is a good example. By now, everyone in the rank and file at the FBI knows I had them killed. No one can prove it or act on it. That place between knowledge and proof is where I live. They know enough to fear me, but without proof, I can't be arrested. Everybody in the organized crime units, they're going to ease up a little bit or find a different guy to go after, because the dead speak to us, and your family is speaking for me. The constable's made a lot of noise about me. We let her out in Midtown before coming here. By now she's in the police station making a different kind of noise. For God's sake, find my daughter. She'll be throwing all kinds of shit at me, but guess what? I've got witnesses who will swear I've been in Chicago since 6 o'clock. I'll tell you, it's a good night to have a fetish keyed around a 9-year-old girl. We have clients lining up now in our place on Waldemar. The guys who like fucking little girls, the guys who like killing little girls, even the guys who like fucking dead little girls will have a good time tonight. And in fact, we're making a movie out of it and giving out tapes for free. That cop's daughter is going to be working for me for a long, long time. When they find her body, it's not just going to be a dead little girl. For years, she'll whisper in the ear of every cop thinking of making a move against me. For years, she will speak for me, because nothing will be proven, but everyone will know.
Some reason you haven't done me yet.
You're going to help me, Frank. We're going to hit every cop who won't play ball, every judge who won't take, any stragglers on the Vingello crew who might have a grudge. They're going to run out of chalk to make the outlines this week. And every corpse is going to get your little skull signature. Case closed. That Punisher psycho has struck again. And I think we can end it now.
Yeah, definitely.
Holy fucking shit, is Costa a great villain?
Yeah, like he's like, I don't know why he isn't like this, you know, like in the second draft. Is like
I can tell you why. It's because they're told to make it more comedic.
Oh Jesus, of course.
But like, oh man, like Costa, not only is he just like a horrendous person who missed out on selling guns to a genocidal dictator, so he's just gonna sell them on the streets.
Yeah.
And he has the government in his pocket, so he's got reach. And he's just like, but he's gonna do this shit to this little girl? Christ.
It's madness.
Fucking madness, man. God damn. And here we go. We got the CIA in it already, so we're anticipating the Netflix series. But it's like, okay, so Frank's like, I ain't gonna work with you. It's like, okay, I don't need you alive anyway. So Sienna's there. She leaves him to Sienna. Begins to torture him by kicking him with like her bladed shoes.
Yeah, freaking Sophia Boutella making her appearance.
Oh shit, yeah, I like that would be cool actually. I like her. But and she's using a club mix, using recordings from his family talking and dying. Holy shit. And oh, by the way, the bug that like helped them to track him was placed there by Harwood. You didn't realize what he was doing. Thought he was doing it to protect Frank. So that just makes it even worse. It was in the kid's Game Boy.
Jeez.
Damn you, Nintendo. Damn you, Pokemon.
Fuck.
Fucking Pokemon Gold killed Frank's family. Team Rocket's blasting off again.
No.
But no, so she's fucking kicking him out. Fucking Costa is leaving. Like, the guns are being excavated en masse because he's just going to move them all out now. Like, Sienna's kicking. Frank tricks her into cutting the ropes. They have a fucking fight where he fucking embeds her with fucking embalming scalpels and kills her. He runs out through the mortuary, shoots a bunch of goons, like running through the headstones, runs up this huge mural of heaven that's getting shot up. He fights a dude who's in a crane, like gets on the fucking like coffin being lifted by a crane, sees something in there, we don't see it. He's fucking shooting with 2 machine guns. Costa sees what's going on and goes, hey, helicopter guy, turn around, we gotta kill him, which was a dumb move on his part. Just like he jumps onto the roof of the mortuary and like the coffin falls open and there's this, it's called a thermobaric weapon, I believe it's called. I looked this up. It is actually a real thing where it sprays out this like flammable gas and there's like a second charge which sets it alight. And so the gas all sprays out. Frank jumps off the mortuary into the water, and as he's jumping, he fucking shoots Costa through the head, and the shot sets off the explosive gas, destroys the cemetery. Holy fuck.
Just insanity. It's like, it's so crazy. Like every action scene has to be like this basically, it's like every action scene is basically a final act action scene, you know? Like just reading all of this shit, it's like The Crow, like final action scene, but like turned up to fucking 11 every single time.
But yeah, like, I mean, they couldn't possibly top this action scene.
No way, especially like with Frank jumping, right? And then like shooting the gun in midair.
That's a John Woo scene.
Just insanity.
And like he shoots Costa through the head and blows him the fuck up. Holy fuck, that is so awesome. But like it's like, what are they gonna do in the sequel?
The entire fucking movie will just be pure explosions every 2 seconds. Like
even Warzone, which was hyping up how it's got more action to 2004, isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
Oh man, but okay, so the fucking script isn't over yet. Like Frank has to go get Katie out of the place on Waldemar, away from the perverts. Thankfully, like she hasn't been raped or killed yet.
Yeah.
So he pulls out Micro's list of places, finds the place, drives there on the motorcycle. She manages to pick her handcuffs and escape and run away like fucking Jenny from Commando.
Jeez, after being chased around, like, fuck, dude, from all these fucking pedophile motherfuckers, and then Jigsaw just like hunting her down and shit, just crazy. Yeah. I almost felt uncomfortable for the first time in a long time. I'm like, fuck the hell. I'm like, hurry up, Punisher.
Like, Jigsaw is chasing around. Like, she ends up in a fucking metro train. Like, Jigsaw and a bunch of goons are on the train, and Frank shows up, is fucking chasing the train, like, driving, like, shreds open the back of it, kills the guys in there, like, has a fucking fight with Jigsaw, who still isn't dead. Like, he gets Katie out of there on the motorcycle, he tosses a grenade through the front window, which kills and like, that doesn't kill Jigsaw. The fucking train goes off the tracks and then blows up, and that kills Jigsaw for good.
Finally.
And then she takes Katie to her mother, and he disappears from Miami, and we get this sort of voiceover from Micro talking about how they got the blackmail files unencrypted and sent it to the press, and a lot of the highly placed people got arrested, got killed, and we're not really sure how much of it Frank was behind or how much of it was just people covering their own tracks. And I thought that was actually kind of cool that we don't know how much of it is the Punisher.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
That was pretty sweet. And he also has Micro hack into the criminal databases and get all these suspicious cold cases where it's pretty obvious who did it, but they couldn't. Basically mob stuff. So basically setting up stuff for a sequel.
Oh, and then like at the very last scene, where like there's like this lineup of dudes at this police station.
There's one thing that happens before it.
Oh, right. You can go ahead.
But also, I have to mention that last action sequence with Jigsaw. You could have cut that.
Totally, man. That felt like completely unnecessary. I was like, just like the entire because throughout the script, I just wanted Jigsaw gone, dude.
Like Jigsaw, like this is one of the most tolerable versions of Jigsaw, just because he's a big joke.
Jesus.
But I mean, Jigsaw. I would have had him just be part of the fight scene at the cemetery, and then like it would have been a quick little scene of Frank taking out these perverts.
Yeah.
And like that. Have you read the fucking Sin City comics, Silent Night?
I have not.
It's Mickey Rourke's character just silently going through this building, just killing people and rescuing a little girl.
Holy shit! All right, I'll have to read that.
Just it's real short. Just make it like that. Make it like that. Just he comes in, gets the girl out, and so Neslar is this FBI profiler shows up and is like, yeah, since we missed some things in our psyche eval, we want to try and help fill in the blanks. And so Neslar has basically figured out that Frank, when he was a kid, he saw, he finally got tired of his father. Right. His father was beating his mother in the alleyway. He went out and shot him dead, and it's that moment really which sealed it for him, that he has to prove to himself that he's not a killer. But that in proving to himself that he's not a killer with not killing Costa, he allowed his family to die. And so his whole thing of him being the Punisher and staying alive is him punishing himself for his family's death.
Shit.
Which I like that. I like the whole bringing it back to his sort of childhood psychology and the fact that he's been feeling guilt over this thing for all these years. That he's had this vigilante inside him all this time. Which, once again, is not dissimilar to what Garth Ennis does in the Max stuff, and which Jason Aaron did even more crazy shit with in his run. And then we get the epilogue where Frank, he's in a lineup looking for the school shooter, and he shoots him through the number.
Right.
And that's the ending, and it says over the ending credits, we're going to play a Los Lobos cover of Hair of the Dog that we're commissioning for this movie. Now, I don't know if that was something Artisan asked to put in, or if that was just wishful thinking. That would have been awesome. Because if you haven't heard Hair of the Dog by Nazareth, listen to that and then imagine a Los Lobos cover.
Jeez, alright.
That would have been badass. So, okay, this is a pretty good script on the most part. Just could have used a little toning down, a little tweaking here and there. But a good, solid starting place.
Definitely. Like, I like this more than the second draft.
And the second draft isn't bad. It's just, especially after you read the first draft, it's like, wow, this isn't much.
Yeah.
But okay, so what happens is he turned this in and everyone was happy with it, but because Welcome Back Frank, the Garth Ennis comic, had come out, and it was this huge seller, the Marvel people and I guess the people at Artisan were all gaga over the fucking black comedy stuff. So they said, hey, could you make it funnier? And arguably some of the set pieces in the actual script are a little too funny for the tone of that script in the first draft. Like the fucking, Frozen guy. So, okay, in this draft, the first third of it is roughly the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
Frank Castle is his real name. His alias is Johnny Tower. Rico is now Renzo, which helps with some confusion. And Gene Neslar is now Terry Neslar for some reason. And
yeah,
they cut a lot of
choice.
I don't know why they changed it. I don't even know why she's in this script, if I'm being honest.
It's so odd. Even like in the third script that we read, there's another name change that I found weird, like Frank Castle's wife's name. I forget what it is in the third script, but when I was watching the movie, I noticed that her name is the same as it is in these two instead.
Yeah, and she's Maria in the comics as well. But I glanced at it and she was Amanda.
Oh, right.
I guess maybe they were going to bring in the Boston song. But okay, so So like the whole opening shootout is the same more or less.
Yeah.
Like they don't really set up Costa as owning restaurants here quite as much. And Frank, he goes undercover with the Vangellos, but it's cut down to just a couple of days, and like they don't do any of the psychological stuff. And the Punisher is just some old school hitman. It's not his father.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, totally. That's like, they should. That's one thing that should have at least been kept in, like, because also in the first draft, isn't there like a montage that happens, like right when he's like settling in with all the mob dudes, and there's like a long ass montage of just pages of like stuff that's happening that he's been doing, but in this one it just gets completely cut out.
Yeah, he's like doing all these different heists and then snitching on them to Harwood. And so, like, okay, so, like, it's all greatly reduced, and there's, like, setting up for the ending of this thing, like, instead of, like, just being a school shooting, it's this guy called the Natural Selection Killer who shot up a schoolyard full of disabled children, which I guess is supposed to be...
Oh, God.
Which is the kind of thing Garth Ennis would do. Because Garth Ennis is a fucked up guy.
Jesus.
But, like, okay, the parking garage shootout happens, except, like... Neslar doesn't have a daughter here, so instead she finds the shootout by interrogating Renzo. Frank finds and stashes the documents instead of Neslar. Baskin gets introduced in here and says he's a banker instead of the lawyer.
Yeah, and also... Oh, I don't think we're even there yet.
But no, like, so that whole thing happens exactly the same, except no daughter, and Frank stashes the document. And then, okay, he gets back to the fish rendering plant, and they go, like, and, like, the Costas are like, hey, like, we seem to be suspicious, like, they seem to suspect that he's a Fed, so that's why they give him the Costa assassination. And they're like, oh yeah, Renzo, he's selling us out the Costa, and so he's gonna be in the elevator. So instead of the whole DA's office thing, it's Renzo Vangello. And so Tony and Frank are in the fucking hotel suite, and Frank doesn't take the shot. He shattered, and like the elevator glass gets shattered, and Costa's like, "You fucking," throws Renzo out.
All right.
Definitely. So Renzo never comes back in this draft, and like it's like Tony's like, "You fucking Fed," and Frank's like fighting him and knocks him out, and Frank gets away. And Vangello, who's in the limo, like downstairs from the hotel, is like, "Did it happen?" He goes like, "Did you even kill the guy?" He's like, "No. You didn't kill the fucking Fed." And then Costa's like in the front seat having killed the driver. He's like, did I just hear you let a Fed into your organization and almost let him kill me, and then kills Vangello right here. So there's no framing the Punisher subplot.
So much is cut out. I think it's like, I think even his family, like Punisher's family, like gets killed like 20 pages earlier, I think, than in the first one.
Yeah, it gets like his family only gets killed like halfway through the first draft, which is weird that the Punisher takes that long to come out.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah, it totally works. That's what's definitely missing in this one. It just felt like, like I didn't care when they went out. Like I cared a little bit, like in the first draft, because you got to see how their situation was like a bit more,
and you got to understand what they meant to him a lot more.
Yeah.
Whereas here, they're just kind of there, like, even in the Thomas Jane movie, even though some of the dialogue it has of his family is kind of typical and not great, like he's fucking talking to his kid in the doghouse about why they got to move so much, like that stuff isn't that great. It's better than just not doing anything with them at all. So, okay, he gets them on the fucking boat, it happens almost exactly the same way, but like there's a few minor differences, like I think there's only 2 boats, and like Frank is trying to throw like the Punisher armor overboard when they show up, but that happens almost exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to 6 months later, and Frank is now living in this ratty-ass apartment building, and he's got, like, the neighbors, Joan, Dave, and Bumpo.
Yep.
Who are from the movie, and they're also from Welcome Back, Frank. And Joan's like, I made too many cookies, which is kind of funny. Like, just offering the Punisher cookies is hilarious in and of itself.
All I see is just the Frank face.
Yeah.
Like the entire time.
The Steve Dillon face.
Yeah.
Which John Bernthal is the living embodiment of that face.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like you got this thing where he's like in this apartment, and it's like it's been 6 months, and he's been preparing, he's like making his own bullets, like he's Jill Valentine. Like he knows how to mix the A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 3. And this time he actually does remember the thugs in detail, and so he goes to the fish rendering plant. It happens almost exactly the same way. Yep. Except he shoots Tony, and he actually knows Costa was behind the hit at this time. He's just he's just taking out the trash. And so Frank goes to Harwood's condo, and it turns out that Harwood in this version did betray him on purpose. And like there's a bit where he's like making out like he's about to leave, and then there's a missing page. But what happens in the missing page that Frank leaves, and like Harwood's on the phone going to Costa like if he finds out I put that tracking bug in his kid's Game Boy, blah blah blah, and like Frank walks in, and then Harwood's like oh shit, and he just chucks Harwood out because like there's this whole running gag about how Harwood has like a word of the day calendar. So he rips the word of the day off the calendar, shows it to him, stuffs it in his pocket with a bullet that has like a 1 engraved on it.
Yeah.
Because he's like counting down bullets.
Yeah.
Or is it a 5? It's the 5.
Yeah, I think
it's 6.
I think these bullets are for like all the people that killed his family. Like he's like making them as I think in this draft he's making these as he's remembering, right? Each of the killers.
It's like he's like counting down the Costa.
Yeah, and then like the cops are like, oh, I don't know if he's counting up or counting down.
And so he chucks him out the window and kills him, and like the cops are investigating, and the word of the day is defenestrate, to get thrown out a window.
Right.
Like lucky that was the new one on the calendar. But like that was pretty cool. He like talks to Costa on the phone and says, I'm going to come after you soon. And then Frank sneaks into the police station, and here it's the epilogue scene where he's shooting the guy in the lineup, and he kills the hyena laughing guy.
Yeah.
And he escapes by like cutting the power, setting off the fire alarms. He boosts a police motorcycle and uses the dispatch helmet to redirect the cops in the opposite direction. And you get this kind of iffy scene of Neslar trying to talk him down, going like, "Oh, you're just becoming a killer, blah blah blah." It's not that great.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It's just like,
I do like that he was planning this thing for like 3 weeks,
at least.
Yeah,
and just walking in and doing everything.
And it turns out he grabbed the mug shots of the killers, and so he's tracking them down. And he learns from a bartender, one of them called Shallows McBride, frequents the Cage Club. And while this is going on, Costa, who in this script is played almost for comedy, he's like freaking out like the more the Punisher does stuff, and just becoming a complete nervous mess. He hires these 3 assassins called the Kovacek brothers, and he has to keep like persuading them to take the case. It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah. I actually laughed at that.
But so he goes to the Cage Club, like he manages to kill, like, okay, like it's the guy with the knives on his vest who spots Frank and tries to kill him, and he's the one who gets flattened with the stripper cage. There's no female assassin in this one.
Yeah.
McBride gets shot and tossed out the window right into a boat propeller, and the Kovacek brothers show up, and Frank flees. They chase him. They chase him into the zoo.
Yeah.
And Frank loses his gun. I think into like the lion cage or something. Or no, he loses his gun, and one of the brothers picks it up. But this scene's almost exactly from Welcome Back, Frank. Like, he goes into a reptile house, gets like fucking rattlesnakes to bite the one guy, and then feeds him to an anaconda. Like the other guy, he gets dumped into a piranha tank, and the other one gets thrown into a pit full of polar bears.
Oh yeah, and then
this plays differently from the comics. In the comics, Frank sees them being docile, punches them in the face, and then they eat the big bad the female gangster Manucci, and she ends up with missing all 4 of her limbs in that comic, but still alive. Only for spoilers for Welcome Back, Frank, for the Punisher to punch her into the burning house at the end.
Doesn't the polar bear still get punched in this, like by one of the brothers?
Yeah, but one of the brothers thinks that he sees the Punisher moving through. He thinks the Punisher moving in on him and punches it, and then like the baby polar bear walks out with this expression on his face, like, "Why'd you do that?" And then the mother comes in and kills him, and like his arm gets like thrown out, and Frank gets the gun back from him.
Jesus.
And so this news gets out, and Costa's Russian suppliers are like, because in this, like, the whole CIA thing is gone. He's being supplied by Russians.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, crap, well, you're not doing so well, so we're going to give you our own assassin to utilize. He's this former military guy known only as the Russian, who has a quick temper and a tenuous grasp on English, so we get this scene that's kind of in the movie eventually.
Yeah, don't they also say that like he only knows English from watching like a bunch of like Western movies and shit, like old West movies?
Granted, it's not great dialogue, but it's still better than the dialogue in the comic. He doesn't call the Punisher Big Boy a whole bunch of times. Which just makes me think of Austin Powers. But, okay, so the torture scene with Baskin happens next, only this time he gives up the time and location of this big weapon shipment moving down the highway. So, okay, this script goes fucking insane.
Right.
He attacks the shipment, and there's a truck with 3 sedans escorting it with Jigsaw riding shotgun in the truck. And so he rides up on a motorcycle, gets up on the hood of the car which has bulletproof glass and tires. I'm going to have to look that up and see if that's a real thing, because I've only seen that bulletproof tires in 2 places, one of which is this. The other of which is the Miyazaki movie, The Castle of Cagliostro. Where Lupin's friend shoots a fucking tire, goes, oh, he must have bulletproof tires. I'll get my armor piercing. And so apparently you can shoot through bulletproof glass if you hit the same exact spot enough times. And so he shoots through that, busts a hole in the window, kills the guy, that takes out that thing. He jumps into the fucking back of the arms truck. And Casas Andrea going you have to shoot in there and blow him up. I don't care if the shipment just gets destroyed. And so Frank just gets a fucking missile launcher, shoots the other fucking sedan, blows it up, destroys it. The fucking third one, he's out of missiles, so he starts rolling fucking mines out at it, which eventually take it out. And then he's got to deal with Jigsaw, so he's climbing up over the truck, he's trying to take care of the cab. And Jigsaw is shooting at him with armor piercing rounds and hits him twice. They're struggling on the outside of the cab. Jigsaw gets thrown under the wheels. And then, by the way, the driver gets killed too with Jigsaw's stray shots. And the fucking connection between the cab and the trailer gets fucked up by that. But Jigsaw gets thrown under the wheels, somehow doesn't die, and gets in the back of the truck. And Punisher knocks the dead driver out, trying to drive away. And there's all this dodging and diving, it's a fucking Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this could be Fate of the Furious. And he manages to get away. He drives past the back of the fucking trailer, whips out both the bullet and the lit cigarette lighter from the truck into the back of the fucking car, into the back of the fucking trailer, and blows up Jigsaw and kills him.
Rest in peace.
Finally, Jigsaw's gone. And Frank is wounded, and he manages to call up Casa and threaten him again, so Casa's even more freaked out. Frank makes it back to the apartment building, passes out in the hall. Joan patches him up, and they actually have a nice quiet character moment where he helps her kind of get over her insecurities and stuff. And he kind of treats her like a daughter, which is weird because she's been very heavily creepily hitting on him the whole script.
Yeah, isn't she supposed to be 19 or something like that?
Yeah,
and he's and Frank's in his 40s. I'm just reminded of the fucking relationship in the anime series of Batman between Batman and freaking Barbara.
And fucking Killing Joke.
Yeah, oh god.
But, they have this nice conversation, and the Russian 3 goons show up, having followed his blood trail. And okay, so we get a repeat of the fucking Hair of the Dog scene with Microchip, only this time it's with Dave. Microchip's not in this script. Which, okay, that just feels like France wanted to keep that scene in there. And so that happens, and he fights the Russian. And he smacks him in the face with one of Bumpo's pizzas, which is what happens in the comic.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny though.
Yeah, it is.
Because the fucking pizzas would fucking completely catches him off guard, screaming while all the cheese is burning his face.
Yeah, that happens in the comic.
That's insane.
And what happens in the comic after that is that he fucking knocks the giant fat guy on top of him and smothers him to death.
Holy fuck.
But no, what happens here is that the fight continues. They end up in Frank's apartment, and he kills him basically with that gas stuff from the first script, only it's not nearly as explosive. And so the Punisher's beaten and wounded, and he goes to fucking Costa's mansion, and Costa's completely freaked out. Punisher somehow manages to kill all the guys outside, makes a big flaming skull. He scares off the guys inside because he took one of Bumpo's hams, wrapped it up in what was left of the Russian's shirt, and pinned it with the Russian's pin, and tricked them into thinking it was his head. Now, he just throws the head in the comic. And they all run away, and Costa's left alone, and Frank is just shooting him up. And Costa's giving this speech, but you killed me, you're no different than me, just trying to reach his gun. And then Frank shoots him dead with the bullet labeled number one. He goes, yeah, I think I'm a bit better, ain't I, Bruno? And so Neslar runs into him outside, but then lets him go when she realizes that this is all a big punishment for him. So her character is pointless.
Yeah, definitely. She shouldn't even have been in this one.
And then she finds out that the Punisher left Costa's files at the police station. That busts up the rest of the operation, including the cemetery and the Russians. And so Frank leaves, the bribe money he got from Harwood, he leaves it with his neighbors for like a good cause.
Yeah.
He leaves Miami for good. And then there's an epilogue with Frank disguising himself as a handicapped man. And he nabs the natural selection killer. And we get the Los Lobos things again. Now that ending just reminds me of the ending of Blade, if I'm being honest.
Oh, right. No wonder the entire time I was like feeling, why is this so familiar? But yeah, you're right.
So yeah, those were the France scripts. The second one's not bad. It would have been an alright movie, but the first one is clearly better.
Yeah, I lost like too much of that character development. Freaking, Nesler being like actually relevant in the first like script by and actually doing a whole lot more. And this one is just like, like Punisher's family is just like whatever. Nesler's like whatever. Most of it is just pretty much just Punisher just off doing Punisher-y things, and that's it.
Yeah, and Costa is not much of a...
Yeah, he's just like, just like a, he's a worm in this one. He's just like, whatever.
He's a hapless comedy guy. But it's not bad, but that first script would have been something. Now, basically what happens is the reason why this version didn't get made is because Jonathan Hensley got brought on to direct. He kind of pushed it in his own direction. And you can see, sort of France's influence on the movie's script.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I am happy with the movie we got, especially the extended cut. Hensley, pure Hensley was stuff like that dude with the guitar.
Yeah, Harry Heck.
Harry Heck, who is a character from Welcome Back, Frank, but he's just kind of on one page and gets killed. But, like, the whole character was basically created for the movie, really.
Yeah, and that was like a pretty, like, neat, short, like, antagonist scene.
Yeah.
Like I did find it like interesting how in the script for the draft that you sent me for the 2004 movie, how it's like this Asian dude instead of Harry Heck, and how like when he gets introduced like to take on the job to kill Frank Castle, like he just have this scene where the what's his face says, "Oh look, it's Bruce Lee," blah blah. I don't believe in that 1-inch punch bullshit. And then the guy proceeds to do the 1-inch punch and just sends like these two dudes flying across the screen. I'm like, holy shit! Like what the fuck is this?
And like him and Punisher have a stick fight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Eddie Lau is he's another one of those like one-page hitmen from Welcome Back, Frank, who's there for a few panels and gets killed. But yeah, that was weird. But yeah, I wish we could have gotten that first draft in some form, but I am happy with the movie we got. Like, imagine Thomas Jane having to do that character development shit with Frank.
That
like,
would have been amazing, man. That would have been amazing to see. Like, I can already see it.
Yeah, I could totally see it. So yeah, basically, Hensley just kind of took it in a different direction. I think the movie mostly worked. Now, I do have a couple of basically unmade sequel scripts.
Yeah.
But I decided to save that for another episode just to keep the workload down for us. And I can maybe if Punisher gets a season 2, I can bring that back.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I have one which is written by Hensley and one which is the Kurt Sutter revision of Warzone. The guy who wrote for The Shield and created Sons of Anarchy.
Jesus Christ. Is that has to be good, or...
It's good. It's not amazing, but it's good. Like, you can see how it became Warzone, but it has a consistent tone. The fucking biological weapon has a point. There's not a million fucking Max character cameos for no goddamn reason. And Looney Bin Jim isn't fucking annoying. And Jigsaw and Jim in that script are described as being like George and Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
The Lord.
Which, it's not played for comedy. It's actually played relatively straight. But no, but yeah, that will be for another time. I quite like doing this one, actually.
Yeah, I was surprised that I actually like ended up liking one of these. Most of the time, I'm like always getting ready just to read something terrible for some reason.
Well, that's because I'm giving you all those Batman and Superman scripts, which all suck. Can you imagine when we finally get around to Superman Lives, just because there's like fucking 7 of those scripts? Can you imagine how fucking painful that's going to be?
That's going to hurt, man.
And I read the Superman flyby drafts. So those will really piss you off. Like, you'll probably be like, yeah, this is worse than Man of Steel.
Oh, shit.
Like, it's the same over-the-top, like, to the nth degree shit that Batman Year One script was.
Like, that Batman Year One script, goddamn, should have been made just for the fuck of it. Just to see where it would have gone.
Yeah, that would have been the fucking Batman movie that nobody would have gone to see, but people have been passing the DVD around going, can you believe this shit?
Yeah.
It would have been kind of like The Spirit in that sense. It's not that great of a movie, But it didn't do well at the box office, but goddamn, I can just imagine people passing that DVD around going, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, true.
Sam Jackson dresses like a samurai and a Nazi.
Jesus, I only saw that once and never again, man.
It's fucking crazy. Like, it's worth watching just for what the hell was this?
Frankly,
But yeah, that was The Punisher. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to check out, we got a Facebook, a Tumblr, a Twitter. I got a blog spot I put together. I'm on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And on the YouTube version, I will be putting timestamps for the different drafts. I was asked to do that on the last episode, so I'll do that for this one. And be prepared for next month, because next month is going to be the first requested episode.
Ooh.
It's going to be the early draft of Ridley Scott's Legend.
Oh, shit. All right. Cool.
And I'm like, it's got fucking snow in it. It counts as Christmas. I don't have to do Star Wars. Thank fuck. I don't have the fucking patience for Uncut Lucas yet.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that's going to be me and Deus Deacon. So look forward to that. It's always fun doing episodes with him. But so yeah, hope you enjoyed it, guys. Until next time, until I'm sure I can get you in on a fucking DC episode sometime in the future.
Definitely.
Like, maybe I'll look up whatever the release date was supposed to be for Flash and have us do all 4 Flash scripts.
Oh, shit.
Believe me or not, David Goyer wrote the best one.
Oh, man, dude.
Like, it was actually pretty fucking awesome. Like, and he wanted Ryan Reynolds to play Wally.
Jeez. All right. I can see that.
But yeah, I hope this episode was interesting to you guys. Until next time. A little trivia fact. Apparently, Michael France said he was supposed to be working on a Doctor Strange script as well, but that one is not out there.
Shit.
Sad. Sadly.
I'd read that in a heartbeat, dude. Just to see.
You'd probably be
like how the action scenes would play out.
I did a Doctor Strange episode not long ago, so.
All right.
Well, it was a year ago.
Oh, jeez, right? The fucking movie, like, it's been that long.
But yeah, I hope you guys like this Punisher episode. Keep up the war against crime, guys, and until next time, bye. You're supposed to say goodbye.
Oh, shit. Later, dudes.
I'm totally not editing that. Bye.